Hello and welcome to another brand new episode of Dingers and Stingers, the podcast that, unlike the Angels and the Braves, will not be coming to blows today, I don't think, unless the takes get crazy. I'm Dallas, and that's Drew, and this is our MLB episode for this week. It's actually our only episode for this week. No Matt this week, but he will be back with us in future episodes, of course. We miss him today, but we're going to talk some baseball. We have not been together recording in a bit, so, we've kind of missed the first few weeks of the baseball season as it started, but we're going to catch up on some stuff. We're going to talk about some rookies that are making some noise. We're going to talk about some starts that are surprising, perhaps in a negative way. We're also going to return to our regular segments for the baseball season, Fan Corner and Locked In Prediction segment. So lots to do on today's show. But first, we want to get to our opening subject this week, which is the early returns for the ABS system, right? So it's been a few weeks now, maybe almost a month of the MLB regular season, and ABS has already had its moments to shine. It's had its moments where there have been, outcomes of games have potentially swung as a result of having it versus not having it. And so we wanted to talk through some of the positives and negatives of the system, potential negatives, maybe, of the system through the first few weeks of the season here. So, where we want to start is obviously there have been several examples of some high leverage situations where these situations are and these games are going the right way now because we have this to back up umpires' calls. So we'll talk about a couple of those examples that you can think of and, kind of how that went down.
Yeah, well, in terms of like the high leverage calls, I don't really remember the exact specifics of any of it. I know there was an Orioles game that ended with an overturned call the other day. In the Red Sox game, there was it was called ball four, but challenged, ended up being strike three to end an inning. So like these things, I think it's great that those are now being called correctly. There's nothing worse than seeing a guy with a great take in a big situation and then get rung up because the umpire can't tell, half an inch in the zone, which, like, let me be clear, I don't blame umpires for not being 100% correct all the time, but it's nice that we can have a little safety net. And on the flip side, I like when guys challenge and, like, obviously not when it's my team, but I do like when guys challenge and the call stands, like the call was correct, because now the players are getting a better idea as well. Because, of course, they're always going to think that they're being screwed over. Now we know, like, hey, sometimes the umpires are better than you think. So far, I like it. I think it's interesting. I haven't like watched every game of every team, of course, but like seeing certain teams clearly have a strategy surrounding the ABS system, whether it's certain players, certain situations, players who are not allowed or whatever. But then other teams, it's like we're just going to figure it out as we go. And I think you learn pretty quickly, like, okay, you can't take it for granted. You can't just let anyone use it. You can't use it on an 0-0 pitch in the third inning. Like it's just not worth it. So figuring out a new layer of strategy in baseball, a sport that, has been the same for so long. It's fun.
Yeah, totally. I think it adds, it's like you say, it's adding a new element, right? We've had some new elements and changes come in over the last few years, pitch clock, primarily amongst those, a couple other things, the base size increase, but those are all, small in comparison to the impact I feel that ABS has had in just the first month of the year. Yesterday, as we record this yesterday, but in the third game of the Angels Braves series, early in the game, the Angels did not win this game, but early in the game, they had the bases loaded with nobody out, and Logan O'Hoppe challenged a pitch that was called a strike. That would have been a strikeout with the bases loaded and nobody out. And instead, it was overturned and he walked. And then they walked a run in and got one more after that. Now, it didn't end up having that big of an impact. They didn't win the game, but there's a situation where momentum could swing to the Braves side, and a pitcher can get rolling after missing a couple and loading the bases up. So, you know, I think that's one as well. So yeah, it's good to see. So when it comes to the impact of ABS, we know that it can help umpires make the right calls and help the right calls be made. So does that make any potential negatives kind of irrelevant? Like, we're going to talk about a couple things next that might be considered to be some early negatives, but before we talk about them, does this kind of impact that it has, does it kind of just be like, whatever it costs, we need to keep this and we need to do this?
That's tough to say, honestly. It's so early in the era of ABS challenges to really know for sure if it's like a great change or not. I do like getting more calls correct in the end. I think that's a good thing. But it also has given me a brand new way to be frustrated about baseball, and that goes a lot of different ways. Obviously, you get frustrated when your own team screws up an ABS challenge, but it's also like sometimes you liked getting bailed out of a jam by an umpire giving you a couple inches off the plate. It was a
Sure.
nice feeling, and now that's gone. Um, and obviously that's great for one side and bad for the other, and probably in the end the correct thing should be done. But that's how baseball has worked for a long time, so it is definitely kind of shocking to get used to it. And another thing is like my concern, and I don't really think this is going to happen because I think they did a good job of making it two challenges, or like two failed challenges before you're out, and like it has to be immediate and all that. So there's no way to make it perfect. Like the way replay review is, you rarely see a failed replay review in today's game. It's like I don't know the exact success rate, but like unless you're just like throwing it out because the game's going to end soon, usually these managers like know exactly when to use those challenges. Like they know for sure we're going to get an overturned call. That's not the case with ABS, so it has to be quick. Um, but like I was concerned about pitchers kind of evolving to it and just trying to clip the corners, and really nibbling a lot more instead of, sometimes what you had to do if you had an umpire that wasn't giving you a good zone, you had to fire it in there. And um, I think there's a place for both types of games, where like I feel for the pitchers, but they already have so many advantages. This kind of feels like one more advantage that pitchers can have. And I think a big part of that is the rule right now. And I guess it's always been the rule. It's just it was up to an umpire before. If the ball scrapes any piece of that zone at any time, it's a strike. And sometimes it's just such like it's like by a hair. Um, and I kind of think that should maybe change. And that's maybe a discussion for baseball as a whole rather than specifically with ABS. I think maybe the ball should get a little bit more of the zone. I'm not saying it has to be like the majority necessarily, but maybe you have to get like a quarter of the ball in the zone just so hitters have more of a chance. Because yeah, if pitchers can start just figuring out how to clip edges, it's going to be very hard. Like, because even if the batter starts adjusting and swinging at it, those are not easy pitches to do anything with. So you know, that's obviously very hard. It takes a very precise pitcher to be able to do that consistently. But I don't know. That's kind of one concern I have right now is like, really, like the strike zone is basically a ball bigger than what it appears because if the ball just barely touches it, it's a strike.
Yeah, right. So that's one of the potential negatives is, this sort of the idea of, expanding the zone, even though we're not actually expanding anything. Whereas before, those might not have been, we might not have blinked an eye at point 0.1 inch. It might have said, okay, well, that goes either way and they get it this time, we'll get it next time, things like that. So, that's one of those things that could be considered potentially something to keep an eye on. So, yeah, it's interesting how hitters adjust to that. If they don't make any changes to it, who knows? It'd be really difficult to adjust to something like that if it's not ever thought about. Um, but another thing that has come up in the last week or so is, umpires are giving their first reactions to, the system. And, some of the criticism that they're putting out there is that, they're afraid that they're now being held to something of an impossible standard, right? So, like, they're trying to, do the best job that they can, and they're being, they run the risk of being proven wrong a lot on one night. We saw, CB Buckner have that terrible night in the first couple weeks of the season. And so, in a way that they're not used to, they are having to face instant accountability for a mistake that they make. And so some of them don't care for that. So, the first question would be, are they actually being held to some sort of impossible standard, or um, is I don't know. I don't know how I feel about them thinking that. I think they might be understanding it wrong.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like a problem umpires have in general is that they think they're more important than they are. Obviously, they're vital to the game, but like the best umpires you don't notice, right? Um, it's only the bad umpires that you really get to know because it's like they're part of controversy so often. And so like yeah, CB Buckner, I watched that game that he had. Yeah, I think he had like 7 or 8 overturned. Um, but he was missing in the same spot over and over. And so like whenever there's an ABS challenge in a normal game, I don't I don't even think about the umpire. I'm not even like, "Oh, yeah, he messed that one up. What an
Yeah,
idiot." Like I'm just like,
exactly.
"Oh, sweet. We won a challenge," or damn it, like they're going to get this call right. I don't think like I'm not mad at the umpire. I'm not holding him, and I don't think baseball fans as a whole are holding them to a higher standard. I think the problem comes in, like in the CB Buckner game, if he was missing just barely in like all different parts of the strike zone, that's a tough look. Like it's gonna seem bad, but it really isn't that bad. That I could see where that's a problem. He was missing. It was these low pitches. He kept calling strikes, and it was like, hey, at a certain point, CB, stop calling that pitch a strike because you're getting proven wrong over and over and over again. And so yeah, I can feel like I can get a sense of why that might feel embarrassing for an umpire, but I promise you, the standard fan is really not thinking about that.
Yeah, definitely not. I think that's why they may be misunderstanding is that, uh, you know, you- uh, we're not really, keeping track. At least I'm not. There might be somebody out there who's going to run a tally, and by the end of the year, they'll have a total of, okay, here's the worst umpire versus the ABS system of the year. I'm sure someone will have that. But the average person is just watching the game and allowing it to take place how it takes place. No, they're not really, being like they got to fire that guy because he lost 2 challenges in a game, or whatever. So I think keeping that in mind would be helpful for them because, yeah, I don't think that the standard we're holding them to has changed. I've always hoped that they thought the standard was getting every call right,
Right. Yeah.
and so I've always hoped that was the case. And so, uh, I knew that it wouldn't be possible to meet that standard because they're people, right? But uh, I've always hoped that that was the idea going into every game was they're like, all right, I'm not going to get anything wrong today, and I would, if it were me in that situation, yeah, it would be tough to like face the accountability in that moment, I'm sure. Like, but I think for me, I would appreciate um, having the system eventually. And it's all getting used to it, right? So I hope that eventually they get used to it and see it as a tool rather than something that's in competition with them. You know what I mean? Uh, but yeah, so last thing on ABS. So far, are there any teams that seem to have a better beat on it? And are there teams that can't seem to really figure it out yet, or does everyone kind of seem like they're still trying to work through it?
I think I was looking into the data because Baseball Savant does keep a record of both team performance and player performance. And shout out Logan O'Hoppe. He's tied for the most overturned calls as a catcher, on the defensive side of things. Which, for someone who didn't grade out great defensively, maybe that's going to be a big upswing. And we'll see how that affects WAR and stuff like that. I have no idea.
Yep. That's right.
But I've noticed the Phillies, they don't have the most, but theirs are, I guess, maybe the most impactful. I don't know all the situations, but they've added 2 strikeouts and taken away 3 walks on defense. So those are big calls because it changes the actual outcome of the at bat. Whereas the other ones, if it extends an at bat or whatever, I don't know if it keeps track of the eventual outcome. But so from what I can tell, the Phillies are doing the best on defense, and the Twins are doing the best on offense. They've done the same thing where they've taken away 2 strikeouts and added 3 walks. I think it's so early in the season to really take much from this data. Because even the most, Logan O'Hoppe is tied for the most. He has 10. That's in 14 games, something like that. So it's clearly not happening every game all the time. So I think we'll see by the end of the year. We'll kind of get an idea of and I wouldn't be shocked if it was the same teams that we always expect to be ahead of the curve. Like if the Brewers and the Rays and the Blue Jays and the Dodgers end up being some of the best teams at ABS, it's there you go. But if it's some random teams, it's okay, maybe we're going to have to figure out how to get an edge in this new part of baseball that we're not used to.
Yeah, totally. It'll be interesting to see if that kind of thing becomes, like you were saying, if it changes catcher value, if it changes the way that certain teams approach, high leverage situations late in games. I'm interested to see. So, we'll keep an eye out, of course, as we're watching to see eventually. It may sort of blend in to what we're used to, but it'll be a while before that happens. So I'm sure it'll still pop out to us all as we continue to watch this season. So, something that's continuing to pop out to us as well is some of these young players that have come into the league this season. To start the season, there were definitely some that came out on fire, that have maybe cooled down a little bit since they first started. But we wanted to talk about a few of some of these attention-grabbing rookies. So we saw great first few weeks from Jake DeLauder, Kevin McGonigal, J.J. Weatherholt over in St. Louis, and Connor Griffin's come up. He came up in the last week, so and he's had a good start. So, of those 4 guys, who among them do you think we might still be talking about in July and potentially even at the end of the regular season?
Well, I think all 4 of them have a great shot at their respective Rookie of the Year, races. DeLauder is leading the American League in home runs right now. I don't think he will by the end of the season. That's my prediction. But still, he barrels the ball a lot. He hits the ball hard. He doesn't chase. He has a WRC plus right now of 185. Again, probably not sustainable, but it's a great start for him. Kevin McGonigal, he's also in the American League. He's also in the American League Central. What stands out to me, he doesn't have a home run yet, but Chase DeLauder is the number 46 prospect. McGonigal's number 2, Connor Griffin's number 1, and J.J. Weatherholt's number 5, I believe. So that's per MLB pipeline. So these other 3 guys are expected to be it, for their teams. So I have high hopes for all of them. McGonigal right now, what's really impressive is he's 21 years old, and his walk percentage and K percentage are in a great place. He doesn't whiff, he doesn't chase, he squares up ball. He's fast. I think the home runs will come, and I think he's going to be a big part of the Tigers' offense. J.J. Weatherholt with the Cardinals, he plays great defense. He has a great eye at the plate. he's he's doing the worst of these four right now, but
Sure.
on a Cardinals team that's not expected to be very good, he'll get a ton of run. He could end up being one of their best players this year. I wouldn't be shocked at all. But the one I'm most excited about by far, and maybe this is me getting a little too rankings happy, but is the number one prospect in baseball. That's Connor Griffin. He just got his contract extension, so
Yep.
they're not going to worry about him the way they're worried about Paul Skeens right now. Before he becomes, like Paul Skeens is now out of the Pirates price range. They locked Connor Griffin up before that could happen. He's a literal teenager. He's 19 years old. He's got all five tools. He plays shortstop. He hits pop. He has tons of pop. He's fast. He just does it all. And so I think this guy's my favorite to win the National League Rookie of the Year, and that's probably not a hot take at all, but I think it's his award to lose, even though he came up a week later than these other guys. That doesn't really matter when it comes to Rookie of the Year, and I think he's going to have a great year for the Pirates, and that could be a huge boost to them. They're kind of in a rough spot defensively. You don't like that team, that outfield especially, but if Connor Griffin can be like Rookie of the Year / getting some MVP votes, and you got Paul Skeens over there, and you got Bubba Starling, like third wild card is definitely a possibility for the Pirates.
Yeah, totally. And through the first few weeks of the year, they're showing that that's a possibility, right? They're winning some games, and they're putting good stuff out there. As the season goes on, these guys just continue to mature and get into a rhythm with each other. Who's to say what the Pirates can accomplish, can be capable of? I wish. I know Matt's not here, but the Padres were kind of the first victims of the McGonagall era beginning here. But I remember, watching that, and then there hasn't been any team that's played Jake DeLauder that hasn't seen what he can get up to and what he can be about. So, yeah, all these guys, I think you're right. All these guys have a decent shot at being in the conversation for a lot of the year, and certainly at the end of the year as well. And so we'll see where their situations put them in. And so we go from talking about guys who started off well. Now let's talk about some teams that maybe haven't started off so well that we kind of expected to be good. And so a few teams here that were pretty high up there in their divisions when we made our division previews, predictions, and things like that. If you missed any of those episodes, feel free to go back and watch them. We predicted, division standings for all the divisions, and we gave good previews for everybody. So good time to go back and see those. But Tigers, Mariners, and Red Sox have all started sort of subpar. So we'll go over the Tigers and the Mariners, and then segue into Fan Corner and talk about the Red Sox in this context. But Tigers, and the main question I want to ask about these teams is what's going on? Like, why have they come out of the gate so slow? Is it something we maybe saw coming as a weakness, or is it something new that's cropped up? So start with the Tigers, and let's talk a little bit about Detroit and why they've started so slowly.
Yeah, and I'll preface all of this. We're talking about all three teams here. All of them are kind of losing in the way we previewed could be their weakness, right? It's happening exactly as you would expect it to happen if they were going to fail. Now, it's still surprising because me and Matt made our predictions. We both had all three of these teams as playoff teams. Matt, I believe, had all three as division winners. I certainly had Mariners and Tigers as division winners. So it is surprising. But for the Tigers, it's the offense is not pulling its weight in the way that you thought it would, and then the pitching has been really disappointing. You thought their strength would be the pitching, and we'll find out. That's kind of a theme with these teams a little bit, but Scooble's been totally fine, but Jack Flaherty, bad so far. Justin Verlander, he was bad in his first start, and then he got hurt. Framber Valdez has not been super sharp, and then their trio at the back end of the bullpen, Will Vest, Kyle Finnegan, and Kenley Jansen, that was supposed to be, 7th inning, 8th inning, 9th inning for them, and all three of them have been very bad to start. Like, I didn't really look into the underlying numbers. I assume they're going to be fine, but you know, bullpen. If you're a reliever, your ERA can balloon really quick
Yeah.
with a couple bad outings, and that seems to be what happened with these guys. So, um, Riley Green hasn't really taken off. Zach McKinstry hasn't taken off. In general, the offense I think will be the weakness for them. Um, and the guys behind Skubal have not been strong yet. And Framber Valdez is a little surprising. I think he'll be fine, but like Jack Flaherty, we've seen him be bad before. Is it that shocking to think he could be bad? Justin Verlander's 43, 44 years old. Like,
Yep.
would it be that shocking if he has a bad year or can't stay healthy? Um, so these are the issues that the Tigers are facing, but I don't know. It's still a weak division in my opinion. I think it's so early, and this goes for all three teams. Like, as a fan of one of them, it's awful to start this way. I don't like it at all, but it is so early. Like, I feel a little bit better being in this group of teams. Like, I fully expect the Mariners and the Tigers
Right.
to be totally fine, and they're doing bad right now. We'll see in a couple months if any of this was just actual, they actually were bad, but I really don't expect that for the Tigers.
Yeah. You take a look at that division, there are teams in it, that aren't really performing that great either. And so, you take a look and you think it's only really a matter of time. And I think one thing that sticks out to me about the Tigers is, you have the White Sox, Royals, and Tigers all in third, fourth, and fifth place in that division. The White Sox have a run differential of -27. The Royals have one of -14, and the Tigers are only -3. Right, so they're not quite in that
Mm-hmm.
grouping just yet from a holistic view and standpoint there. So that difference, even though the Tigers are behind both of those teams in the standings and in the record perspective, I think they're showing that they're not long for last place in this division, I don't think.
Well, and I think the Twins being in second with a winning record, the Twins just swept the Tigers in a four-game series, a
Yeah.
mop, if you will. Like,
Mhm.
that's great for the Twins. That's terrible for the Tigers. If you're a Twins fan, grab onto that hope. If you're a Tigers fan, try to like just get over it as soon as you can and move on. But I think that's an indication of how early we are in the season. I really don't expect the Twins to be a better team than the Tigers when it comes to the end of this year. And great for the Twins to have a hot start, but like I don't think they're a playoff team. That opinion isn't going to change 3 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
Similar to the bad teams, it's like talk to me in a couple months and we'll see if it was real, and I'll be interested. But it's just such a long year, and we barely started.
Yeah, absolutely. So going from the Tigers, let's go to the Mariners now, and what's going on up there in Seattle? Why is this team, kind of falling a little bit out of the gate here?
Yeah, the Mariners. I was looking at their scores throughout the season so far, and it seems like if they're hitting, they're not pitching well, and if they're pitching well, they're not hitting. That it's just
Mm,
kind of a bad luck team in that way. Looking into the numbers, the trio of Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez, and Josh Naylor, all three are terrible out of the gate. None of them are hitting well at all. And on one hand, like I said, this is kind of like part of what we were talking about with the Mariners is like, well, what if Cal Raleigh can't? I mean, we all expected him not to reach the heights of last year because last year was such a crazy good season, but like, what if Cal Raleigh just is like an average player? That's that's kind of what we're seeing right now. It's actually below average. I'm sure he'll be fine. Julio Rodriguez is a notoriously slow starter. I'm sure that's extremely frustrating for Mariners fans. It's frustrating for me because we all know he can be better, and he will be. But it's just like he just never starts fast. And then Josh Naylor is probably the most concerning of the bunch for me because they just signed him to a 5-year contract extension. He was great for them and down the stretch last year, but like around the league when it comes to first baseman, it's not like he has the profile that you want more than anyone. Like it's not necessarily the one that ages the best. Like we'll see. I don't think he's gonna suck all year, but like he's the one I'm least hopeful in bouncing back. And part of that is the other two guys are like superstar players, and he's not. But yeah, that's a little concerning to me. The pitching side, Logan Gilbert's ERA is inflated, but like the underlying numbers say he's still Logan Gilbert, and the other starting pitchers have been pitching great for them. So, we watched the game together where the Angels beat him 1-0, and
Yep.
it's because Joe Adell robbed 3 home runs. So, it is what it is. Um, but yeah, the Mariners, I would say it's even a little less concerning than the Tigers because it's like, okay, our two superstars aren't hitting, but our pitching is still our pitching. Um, if we can get those guys going, I think we'll be just fine.
Yeah, and that was my kind of my main idea. It seems like, they're unbalanced, in game to game, at what part of the team is doing well, what part of the team is doing poorly. And so as soon as they can get a little more consistency about all playing together well, they should be just fine. And they won't, lose games 1-0, or they won't lose extra inning games 8-7, where it's like, if the Mariners score 7 runs with the pitching staff they have, that should be enough to win most of the time. So yeah, once they get some alignment there, and steady the train on the tracks, I think they'll be okay, for sure. But okay, so this is kind of the next team that we want to talk about in this section, plus our transition to the next section here. So, our next segment, of course, being Fan Corner, where we get to talk a little bit about our teams exclusively, and give them a little attention and talk about what it's like from a fan perspective, from these teams. So let's talk generally about the Red Sox start, and how that is going over in Red Sox land.
Yeah, so the Red Sox start has been really bad. They were 2-8 through 10 games, or I think did they get to 2-9? Yeah, they got to 2-9, I believe. Um, and so it's like tied for the worst start in Red Sox history. They've never made the playoffs starting that bad. Things like that. But also like some of the teams that start that bad, it was like 2019, 2011. Like these are not teams I think in my head as like, oh, that was a bad team. They were disappointing, but they weren't like terrible. So I don't know. We'll see
Yeah.
how that plays out. I'm going to start with the negative point of view on it. And then I'm going to give you the bright side afterwards. So negative, the concerning things. The lineup is not really hitting. Outside of a couple guys, the lineup's really cold. That includes Roman Anthony is cold. Jaron Duran has gotten off to a slow start. Trevor Story, Caleb Durbin, the newcomer, is off to a terrible start. Carlos Narvaez hasn't really started hitting yet. Marcelo Meyer isn't really hitting very well. So like this is a lot of guys who are not hitting very well. On the pitching side of things, Ranger Suarez has been straight up bad so far. He's only made 2 starts. And there was some fatigue from the World Baseball Classic / not quite being ramped up to start the season. Johan Oviedo is on the injured list and is going to be out for a while. I don't remember the exact amount of time, but it was like, okay, he's shut down for like 6 weeks and then he'll be reevaluated, something like that. So that's not a great thing to hear about your, recent acquisition. Greg Weissert out of the bullpen has just blown, it seems like, every lead that he is given. And then the defense has just been atrocious. This was supposed to be a better defensive team than Red Sox past. Trevor Story has had a few misplays. Caleb Durbin. Roman Anthony can't make throws. I think it's mental at this point for him. He's just he's basically spiking the ball. It's just not going where it needs to go. And even like Rafaela hasn't had as strong of a start defensively as we're used to from him. So these are all the things to be concerned about. It's all contributing to the slow start for the Red Sox. But now I'm going to give you the bright side. Okay, so first of all, we won our last 2 games leading into this recording. which means we won a series against the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers were the best team in baseball coming in, record-wise. So, like, that shows you how early in the season it is, how you can't really get a gauge on who's actually good and who's not, and this and that. Because I think the Red Sox will be a fine team, and I think the Brewers will be good too. But like we just proved, we can hang with a good team like that. So that's nice. Regarding the defense being horrible, it like with Roman Anthony and even some of the stuff with pitching, like I forgot to mention Brian Bayo has not been good either. Um, it's been really cold. They played two series in Boston. It was cold in Boston. It's harder to grip the ball. It's harder to hit the ball. It's harder to do everything. And now, I granted both teams are playing in those conditions, but like I'm not going to hold the Red Sox to this. Like I don't expect them to be this all year because they're not going to be playing in the cold all year. You can argue they should have been better prepared for that if that is going to be an excuse. But like I'm going to take a little bit of solace in that. And then Garrett Crochet has been Garrett Crochet. He had a rough outing against Houston. Basically, just one pitch got away from him and it ruined his start. Sonny Gray has been really great for us. I really liked what I've seen from him so far. Brian Bayo, as bad as he's been, he's getting way more swing and miss than we're used to seeing from him. So if you could somehow put the other elements all together, we could see a really good Brian Bayo, which is exciting. The back end of the bullpen has been good. Like these are good things. And then we have some guys who are hitting. Wilyer Abreu has been one of the best hitters in all of baseball. He already has one WAR this year. I think that's like tied for the most. Wilson Contreras has been like a walk machine. He's doing really well. And then Masataka Yoshida, big shocker, he can hit. And he's been hitting well as well. So there are things to like. There are very real concerns with this team. I feel like the ceiling for the Red Sox could be higher than the Tigers, and you could maybe even argue the Mariners, but the floor is also much lower. So that's the concern with them. Are they going to be closer to the ceiling or closer to the floor? Time will tell. But I think we're going to be okay because, like, Oviedo goes down, doesn't really matter exactly. Like, it matters, but, like, we have a five-man rotation still. Connolly Early has been pitching great as well. Forgot to shout him out. So,
Yeah.
like, we're kind of built for this kind of thing. There's still that logjam of outfielders, but if someone gets hurt there, problem's kind of solved. So, I don't know. I feel pretty okay. We have a road trip now going to St. Louis and then Minnesota. Be nice to beat up on those teams and feel a lot better going into the next homestand.
Yeah, totally. Totally. It would, I'm sure it would feel really good to get right. And it's a get right opportunity. I think that's what the Red Sox need to be thinking about it as. It's a get right opportunity, and hopefully they can take advantage of it. Uh, so, uh, on to the Angels, I guess we can talk about next, since Mal isn't here. No Padres representation on today's show, but uh,
They did win a
they
series
also
against the Red Sox. We saw that.
they did win a series against the Red Sox, and we were there for one of them. That would be my kind of my dinger for this week. So we'll talk a little bit more about our tales from the ballpark at that time. Uh, but yeah, so no Padres representation, but they have started a little slow as well. But they've made up some ground already. But the Angels. So one of the things that I mentioned about the Angels when we previewed the AL West was that last year one of my big beefs with the Angels last year was that they just made no impression on baseball culture really last year. Like you can't really think back and be like, oh, at least there was this one thing that happened or, whatever. You could argue that, Joe Adell's offensive breakout happened last year a little bit, or potentially if he continues, it would be considered a breakout. But no one remembers that, right? And so that was my big, bugger about them from last year. Well, this year they are making waves. They are making waves, and Joe Adell's part of that. That's the first thing that happened this year. That kind of put the Angels on the map for everybody. Everybody kind of had eyes on Joe Adell's big night against the Mariners in the home opening series uh, uh, for the Angels when he robbed 3 home runs in one night. There's funky business with that wall in right field. Now that they lowered the line, the yellow line for what is a homer and what isn't. That was not new. That's been done for years, but ever since that happened, it's become easier to sort of rob homers against that wall. And so, either way, there were 3 balls that were struck by Mariners hitters that were going to be home runs if he does not get to them, and they all end up in his glove, culminating in the last one, which he dove into the stands to go get. And then the iconic image now that someone captured from those seats of Joe Adell standing in basically the seats, holding the glove up that had the ball in it. That's a great image that I'm sure will be referenced all year long. And so, yeah, there's an impact for you. They won that game again 1-0. So obviously, huge impact of Joe Adell's performance in that game. If without him, they would have lost it. And so that's also part of why Mariners are probably going to be okay. They should have won that game, and they're hitting the ball really well and well enough to score runs. Just getting unlucky. And then the other thing, maybe not so positive, depending on how you think about it, we had our first benches clearing situation for the year, and it was Angels versus Braves. Now, we've seen all the breakdowns and everything, and it's pretty well out there that everyone's pretty sure that it was a miscommunication between Reynaldo Lopez and Jorge Soler that caused Jorge Soler to charge the mound in that moment. If you're not aware, the idea that a lot of people have is that Jorge Soler gave him a little look after a pitch was thrown up and inside, and Reynaldo Lopez said something to the effect of, "Oh, it was on purpose," as a question, like you think it was on purpose? But what Jorge Soler understood him saying was a statement, which was that was on purpose. And so that miscommunication, people think, is what caused the fight. And so they were swinging, and Reynaldo Lopez, had the ball in his hand and was hacking at Jorge Soler's head with it. And of course, the big moment was that Walt Weiss came in and took Jorge Soler, who is not small. He took him out with a pretty solid, lower body leg tackle, and that was pretty cool to see. And it's interesting, all those players have history with Jorge Soler on the Braves. Walt Weiss has history with him from his time there, and all that stuff. So it was a very interesting situation to watch unfold, because you're like, wait, do they have bad blood? Like, did I miss something? And it also took forever to develop as well. And so it was really, really weird
It was like a
about how it
stolen
all went
base,
down.
right? Or yeah, it was a pass ball, so they were advancing, and there was a delay. Yeah,
Yep. So while Nolan Shanywell was advancing on the pass ball, it was all going down when the cameras weren't on them. And then, the cameras cut back and we see what's happening. So, yeah, weird situation, but hey, again, Angels on the map, right? And so this season, very quickly, they fixed one of my problems with them last year, which was that if you're going to lose, if you're not going to be very good, at least do some things and get your name out there, and get some impact in the sports culture. And they've done that so far. They've also not been losing a lot. They are not 500 right now, but they haven't been losing quite as much as maybe I would have thought they would. They did decent against the Astros, split that series, and then they won a series against the Mariners, and they did not win the series against the Braves. And so I think that from there, things can go anywhere now. But yeah, they've been playing even better. Even though they're not 500, they've been playing better than I thought they might to start the year. They have pitchers. I'm still, you know, I, we're back. Jose Soriano breakout year again. The cycle has started again. like maybe this one will be the one, because he started off really well so far in his first few starts. He's pitched very well, and Detmers is back in the rotation, and that's been kind of as expected. He's looked good and he's looked not good. So uh, yeah, we'll see. It's interesting to see Mike Trout back in center field. It feels like home, but I wish that they had someone reliable that they could replace him with, so that he wouldn't have to be out there. But we'll see. So Angels land, we're feeling fine. The expectations are not super high, so just to get the Angels in the conversation has been good the first few weeks. So however that needs to happen, I'm down for it. But yeah, so cool. So that'll do for Fan Corner. So let's go now to our second to last segment for today's show, which will be our Locked In segment, where we will make some predictions for the next week of play in baseball. So I'm filling in for Matt in this segment, making a prediction. So I've got mine set, but Drew, let's hear yours first.
Yeah, my prediction, I'm going a little bold. I'm going to start off strong. I'm going to say I've been looking around the league. There's been some wackiness going on. Some of these games have been crazy in different ways. And I made this prediction before today's Yankees-A's game. And my prediction is that we will get our first no-hitter of the year this week. I believe
Wow.
last year we had 0, if I remember correct,
Yes.
which is, not super common. Today, Jeffrey Springs went pretty deep into his start against the Yankees without giving up a hit, didn't complete the job. I think we get one this year. I think the pitchers, there's been a few that have come out really strong. I'm not necessarily going to say it's one I like. Like, I know we got Cam Schlittler pitching against the Rays this week. He's been looking pretty nasty. But, of course, everyone goes over the course of a week. We'll see the Scoobals and the Crochets of the world, Paul Skeens, all that. I don't have a prediction on who it's going to be, when it's going to be, what game, but we will get a no-hitter this week. And, maybe even a combined one. I don't really like to count those because it's boring, but
Yeah.
I would count it for this being correct.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to flex a little bit, flex out a little. So, yeah, I mean, look, we've seen a good amount of shutouts. We've seen now a one-hit game. You mentioned it, this A's Yankees game. We've seen that now. So, pitching is starting off the season hot. And so, why not? Why couldn't we see our first no-hitter of the year this week? I think I'm ready. And I'm ready to see one period. Like you said, we didn't have one last year. So let's see one. I want to see that. Okay, so my prediction is about the Mariners, and I think that they are going to get back on track over the course of the coming week. And, it's mostly weekend because their series against the Astros begins, I believe, tomorrow or even tonight, maybe. I'm not sure. But I think the Mariners will get back on track with a sweep of the Astros. The Astros just got swept by the Rockies. And yeah, there are situations where you get swept by a team you shouldn't get swept by that fuel you to do better in your next series. And then there are situations where you get swept by a team you shouldn't get swept by, and the stink stays around for a little while because you're just sitting there thinking, how do we let that happen? And I think this might be one of them for the Astros. I don't think they can get back up off their feet quick enough to battle against a Mariner team that, like I said, is hitting the ball decently and just running into some poor luck. And clearly, the Astros are running into some poor luck as well. Because how do you do that?
I don't like the implication of the transitive property here because the Astros did sweep the Red Sox earlier this season already. So not loving that look, but that's March and April baseball for you, dude. Anything can happen.
Anyone can go anywhere. Any team can beat anybody, as we're all getting our legs under us for sure. But that's me. Mariners get back on track. They're going to sweep the Astros in their coming series with them. So we'll check in on that. And your prediction next week. All right, last segment for today, our titular segment, Dingers and Stingers. If you are unfamiliar, this is the segment where we give you one stinger, one bad thing, and one dinger, one good thing from the world of sports for the week. So let's start with stingers, and let's start with you. Drew, what do you got for stinger this week?
Yeah, so this is a kind of an interesting stinger because it's not. Oh, well, let me just explain. So, my stinger this week is the release of the City Connect jerseys, the wave number 2 for this year's batch of teams. I believe it's 8 teams that
Yeah, that
are
sounds
getting
about right.
new City Connects this year. We saw last year was the first round of the second wave. Um, and let me just preface this by saying I think for the most part these new jerseys they look good. I like the way they look. That's not my issue. My issue is that the whole point of City Connects was that it was, this might sound obvious to some people, a connection to your city that you play in.
Yeah.
Um, and like half of them don't really make sense for that for me. So like the Pirates, theirs says Pirates on the front, and it looks kind of like a pirate flag, like it's like a little bit tattered, the writing, um, and then it's like has to do with 1600s pirating, like that's kind of inspiration for the design. I'm pretty sure that has nothing to do with the city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Like that's not like that's why they're called the Pirates. That's great, but like that's not a connection to the city for me.
Nope.
The Texas Rangers, it's cool. It says Tejas, like Espanol. Um, it's red. It looks cool, but that is not their city. That's their state. So like not quite the same thing. Same thing with the Brewers. Theirs is about Wisconsin. That's not Milwaukee. That's the whole state of Wisconsin. And so this is maybe just me being like a poor sport and getting too analytical about it. Also, the Braves, it's like all about Atlanta, which that is their city, except for they left it like 5 years ago or whatever when they built their new ballpark. Um, I don't know. I think like because we've seen Nike do all sorts of crazy jerseys for like football. They did Color Rush once upon a time, and then now it's like
Yep.
the rivalry uniforms. For the NBA, they've done all sorts of stuff. So I think they should just like either take that to baseball or don't. And what I mean is like let's just call it something besides City Connect. Let's call it a
Yeah.
new type of alternate. And while we're at it, let's get rid of the rule where there's like a limit on how many different jerseys you can wear in a year. Because like the Red Sox kept both City Connects and had to get rid of their blue. I remember when the Mariners added their City Connects, they had to get rid of their road grays. Like, let's just, you have your City Connect. That's great. Now you add this new one. It's called something else. I don't know what it's called. And let's just have them all in the rotation and have fun with it that way. But whatever this is, it's like you're running out of ideas or something.
Yeah, I did find it a little strange looking at a lot of them and not really seeing any sort of connection to, yeah, like what it's supposed to be, or like what it was originally set out to be, at least, And so, yeah, it was a little disappointing to see that, because I think that there would be plenty to do, if the idea was kept as the original. But you know, I feel fortunate the Angels have a good one, and that hopefully they'll just keep it around for a while. They do have a good one that follows the original plan a little bit anyway. Uh, is Anaheim by the ocean? Kind of. A
Doesn't
little
touch
bit it
it,
is.
but you know.
Yeah, a little bit it is. But you can't. They should make an Anaheim packing house themed jersey, maybe. I don't know. One of those.
The most famous structure in Anaheim, the packing
Yep,
house.
the packing house.
Yep.
Shout out to the Anaheim packing house. But yeah, so okay, so there's yours and mine. for the week was actually going to be something that I had planned for us to talk about in our football episode this week, but is not to be any longer. So I'll talk about it here. Um, it's a stinger in a very light sense because I don't really necessarily disagree with the decision, but it will be strange for sure. As someone who does watch at least day one of the NFL draft, I do watch that. It will be strange with that the person who is ostensibly going to be the number one pick will not be present to walk down across the stage and accept, get the jersey from Roger Goodell because, Fernando Mendoza currently plans to not attend the draft live in person. He prefers to be around his family at home. I think that also if I remember what I read correctly, maybe like transportation across that kind of a distance might be an issue for his family because I think his mom is in like a wheelchair at the moment, or at least for now. And so that probably played into it. And so, like I said, don't disagree with the decision. I think it's perfectly fine. He can do whatever he wants. But it will be a little strange that the number one overall pick, or who we think is going to go number one overall, at least right now, won't be there to kick the thing off. And so it's a stinger in a very light sense where not necessarily something I'm upset about, but it is something that will make the draft feel different. And, it will feel a little strange not to see that. But, everybody should, celebrate moments like that in the way they want. And I just think it'll be weird.
Yeah, it's gonna be like I'm always picturing Joe Burrow, but that wasn't his fault. That was COVID year. So like,
Right.
yeah, who was the last number one to not be there? I don't even know.
It's very rare to be taken by surprise to be the number one overall pick these days. What
Right.
with, all the media that's out there, and teams who are in that position, pretty much have a very clear idea of who they want, and so it's very rare to be surprised by that these days, and so most of them do show up, at least recently. So I can't remember when the last one non-COVID related was. But we'll see how it looks, but it'll be interesting. I wonder if they'll like let them talk or something. I don't know. How it'll work. Like, will they? Because they usually just pull them off to the side and do a little interview after. So, will they have somebody there, or it'll be interesting to see how they set it up. But it'll definitely be different. But yeah, so that's stingers. So let's end with the good here, and let's go to dingers. And back to you.
Yeah, so I had a fun week and everything. I went to Boston. I saw a Red Sox game. I
Oh
have a
yeah,
feeling that that's going to be part of your dinger. Um, so
yes.
I'm gonna shout out another dinger that happened to me today. This has been a dinger for me like three different times at different stages of the process. But today, a free demo for the new backyard baseball game came out, so I downloaded that, and it's fun. Like it's a new game mode. It's like a home run derby type of thing. They didn't have that back on the original, but I played as Pablo Sanchez again. Uh, Playing on my computer, a brand new backyard baseball. I can't wait for July for the full game to come out. I'm really excited about it. Every little thing they've dropped about it makes me more excited, but um, it's really cool. Like I can already tell it's going to be a great blend of what made the old ones great with what makes modern video games fun. So I think it's going to be a really good time.
Nice. I look forward to it myself. I'll have to look into that, but
I
I
also
probably won't
I,
be able to.
I want to tease like we haven't discussed this or anything as a show, but
True.
during summer, like I really don't see why not. Maybe we'll get some streams going. We could play some
Oh yeah.
some backyard baseball. I have a setup here. I could get this streaming, so maybe something to keep an eye out.
Oh yeah. Keep your eye out right here for something like that. That'd be super fun and definitely doable for us for sure. So I can't wait to play as well. It's going to be so good. And I'm glad it looks good so far. So that's good to hear. All right, so my dinger for the week, yeah, you have it, you have your suspicions right. The dinger is going to be since it's from the world of sports. I saw Fenway for the first time. I'd never been before. I went in person to Padres versus Red Sox over in Boston on I wouldn't say, I would say cool, bordering cold day in Boston. It was not so bad.
It's cold for us
But
LA folk, maybe, but
yes,
yeah.
definitely cold for us from who are from out here. But yeah, so we were in Boston. Drew was there. Drew's family was there. I was there, and I got to see Fenway for the first time. I didn't know like if I'd ever make it out there, or I'm sure I would have tried to do it at some point. But this situation and this opportunity kind of came up and fell into my lap, and it was awesome. And I loved walking around there, man. It was so cool. Like I wanted to see as much of it as I could. I got to see a great chunk of it. We walked around a lot before the game. We got there nice and early so we could see what we wanted to see, and then we stayed a little bit after to walk around and see as much of the statues on the outside as we could. We saw a different side of the stadium than the one we came in on, so I got to really walk around it, take it all in, and you get there and you walk through the tunnel to go in, and you're just like, wow, this is for real. Like this is awesome. You just think about how long it's been there, how many games have taken place there, how many huge moments that I watched on TV and then now watching YouTube highlight compilations like have taken place there, and it just feels it feels big, it feels different. It's one of those ones that like other kinds of like older stadiums that have been around for a long time. It feels different going there than a lot of other places. So it was super fun. Unfortunately, we could not escape with the Red Sox win. They did a lot of good things in that game, but unfortunately, lest we forget, Ranger Suarez looking like a Gold Glover on the mound in that game. It was game 2 of the series for anybody who might remember it, or game three of the
Game three.
series for those who might remember it. Ranger Suarez was out there, really defending his position out there. But yeah, so a lot of good things for the Red Sox in that game. They took a couple leads, but unfortunately couldn't escape with a win. But other than that, it was a really fun experience. So dinger for the week, I got to get out there and see a regular season baseball game at Fenway, which was super, super fun.
Yeah, I always get a little nervous that I rate it too highly because I'm a Red Sox fan, so it's like, well, that's my team, that's their park. But like, I truly think it's like a cathedral of baseball. And I would put Wrigley in that same category in Chicago, and really nothing else. Dodgers is like the third oldest, and there's like 50 years in between. So,
Yeah.
I really do like going to see a game at Fenway Park. I've gotten to do it now a handful of times, and it always leaves me wanting to go back. So, really fun time.
Yeah, and it is absolutely a cathedral to the sport because it's just there's so much there that's to commemorate, like everything there, and the whole area surrounding it's really fun too. You got lots of cool shops and places to hang out right outside the park area. So that's always really fun. That was really fun to walk around too. But yeah,
Mm.
super cool. If you have a chance to go to Fenway at some point, or even if you don't have a chance, make a chance. Go and see it. And bonus points if you can see your team playing there. But even if not, if you get the chance, go. You will love it. All right. So that'll do for this week's episode of Dingers and Stingers. We appreciate you listening and watching along with us. You can subscribe here on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any uploads. You can like this video, share it around, and also if you prefer audio only, you can listen to us on Spotify as well. We upload there too. Um, you know, uh, Hit us in the comments, with your thoughts on ABS so far. Let us know if we missed any rookies that we should be talking about and who you think might be in the discussion. All the topics that we hit, we want to hear your guys' thoughts on as well. So hit us in the comments and let us know what you think. But for now, until we talk at you, take care, and we will talk to you then. Goodbye.
Bye.